Thank you, everybody, and welcome to Brunch with Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. I understand that people are trying to guess what color bandana good old BMR had on. I bet you nobody guessed white and black. I guess not. I don't know. I have to look in chat. If this is your first time here, please subscribe, give a thumbs up, and hit the alert bell. Bigfoot, Michigan Rob on YouTube. In Studio B is my lovely co-host, Krista. I'll be bringing her up in a second with my great guest. I got an awesome guest, Eric from the Paranormal Highway will be joining us here today. Please subscribe to Eric on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, you can find us once again on YouTube at Bigfoot Michigan Rob. And don't forget Texas Front Porch, the Blondes and Booze Paranormal Podcast. Van Buren Variety and Jason McLean questions everything. All my buddies, give them a shout. We are also on Odyssey Radio, iHeartRadio, and Spreaker. And where all podcasts are found, you can also find us on KPNL Radio. Thank you to the lovely Ann Selene out in Oregon. That's right, Oregon. Eric told me it's not Oregon, it's Oregon. KPNL Radio in Oregon. Ann Selene, thank you. Find us on Facebook. Find us all on all social media platforms. And please don't forget to subscribe. If you like what we have to offer, the Super Chat's available. If you'd like to support us, the Super Chats is available across the board. Long after the show ends, so is the Super Thanks if you care to donate. Check out all our channels and about pages. We got a lot of things going on. And speaking of things that we do have going on, Mondays is Texas Front Porch, and that's on every Monday. You can find Tex and Brandy from the Blondes and Booze Paranormal Podcast, 9 o'clock in the East on Texas Front Porch. Tuesday, Van Buren Variety, 8 o'clock in the East. Beyond BMR, along with Tex, we're on at 9 o'clock Tuesday in the East. Jason McLean is doing something called Mysterious Library and Untold Radio AM. Check out Jason. And, of course, Jason McLean does have his own YouTube channel where he does put out videos alongside Donnie Cho. Fantastic. Go check out Jason. Back here on Thursdays with Brunch with Bigfoot, Michigan Rob at 1 in the East with Krista. Tonight, the Blondes, the Booze, the Paranormal Podcast, they come on Thursday nights at 9 in the evening. And if you need a little more woo with the booze, you can also find them Friday nights, 9 in the East. Again, subscribe to the Blondes and Booze Paranormal Podcast. Saturday, Tex and Danielle Diva are doing something called Infamous Minds. It's true crime. Texas Front Porch, Saturday, 3 in the East. Also on Saturdays, Jessica Jones, the Cryptid Huntress. You can find her on Spaced Out Radio at 10, Saturday and Sunday. And she, of course, has her own podcast, her show on YouTube throughout the week. So go check out the lovely Jessica. Thank you ever so much for that. I am going to bring up Krista. Hello, Krista. How are you?
I'm good, actually. Just got done eating a bacon sandwich. So what's better than that, right?
I tell you what, I had one late last night, and I enjoyed it thoroughly, and I love me a good BLT. I love a good BLT. And before I bring up my great guest, I had Eric. I was on Eric's show 2 days ago, and he promoted my book. And yes, it is out there. Bigfoot Michigan Rob presents True Cryptid Encounters, Book 1. You can find that on Amazon. The link I pinned at the top. I'm very proud of it. It's a fantastic book, in my opinion. It's got 45 true cryptid encounters that I've picked up over the last couple of years from you folks that have sent them to me, from emails I've gotten, subscribers throughout the world said, hey, Rob, Can you tell my story? But I don't want to be on your show. So I started doing that and posting them on YouTube. And then you know what? After about a year, I said, let's put this book together. And I did. So it took me about a year to write. So I appreciate everybody if you go check that on out. And
Yep. And see, I got mine too.
yeah. See, you know what? Look at that. I like that. And look, show them how thick it is. It's not, a little pamphlet.
Nope.
It's pretty nice. And I do, yeah. Oh wow. I haven't even gotten my copies yet. 3 or 4 people have said, Rob, including Eric and backstage, showed me they got the book. And I ordered it's probably because I ordered 50 of them.
That's
and I
probably
think they
why.
got to print them. So I haven't got a single copy yet. So
you should have ordered one and then did a separate order.
And I just looked up. I'm tracking it on YouTube and not on YouTube. I'm tracking it on wherever it's come. It just left Maryland.
Oh wow!
I live in Michigan, so it's on a truck somewhere in Maryland. I'm excited to get my first copy. Everyone else has got it, but I'm glad they got them. I'm glad you got them in a timely fashion. And
I just gotta get your signature on it now. That's it.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna have to see it, put a signature on it. I've been getting a lot of requests for the signatures. Man.
But remember what I told you yesterday? I'm special.
You are special. You are a special person. Chris is very special in my life. My little co-host who does a fantastic job. The paranormal investigator who's now into cryptids. And so, yeah, we have a great team here. I appreciate what Krista does for me and all the guests we have on. In fact, I appreciate Eric Wood from the Paranormal Highway because he's promoting the devil out of my book. And you know what? He's got a lot to offer. And I'm going to bring him up right now.
Man, I feel naked because the book is upstairs. But
I know you bought it, and thanks so much for that. Krista just showed the live copy here on air. Thanks for joining us today, Eric, man.
And I appreciate you calling it Oregon, not Oregon, because everybody knows in Northwest it's called Oregon, and people on the East Coast always call it Oregon. Don't know why.
Hey, listen, I was calling it Oregon for my entire life until I was on your show, and you just, politely said, Rob, it's called Oregon. So now I got that in my brain, and I knew when I brought you up to say Oregon, because I want to be correct with that. So
that's common with states though, because I'm in Missouri. Some people call it Missouri, Illinois, and Illinois.
Yeah, so, Illinois. I always said Illinois. Yeah. Now Missouri, I mess around with you and Brandy because I know it's Missouri, but I always call it Missouri. It reminds me of the Missouri boat ride. If anyone saw the outlaw Josie Wales, he sends everybody on the Missouri boat ride where he fires his rifle at that rope and he cuts that raft or that barge, and they all go floating down the Missouri River. And then he kicks them off.
Speaking of that outlaw Josie Wales, that was actually based upon a true person. And Mr. Outlaw Josie Wales is buried right here in Missouri.
Oh.
Now, that is a fact, because I got to tell you.
It's an undisclosed location. However, I sold his his great-great-grandson a horse, and that's the only reason I know that.
Well, that's fantastic, because that is one of my all-time favorite movies. I don't know where I'm not going to rank it. It's in the top 10 for me. I've probably watched it 100 times. Of all the movies I've ever seen, I probably watched it the most, next to my all-time number 1 favorite movie, which is Jaws.
Oh,
really?
I love Jaws. I read up on anything I get on it. I love it. I saw that when I was 8 or 9. My parents took me and my brother. In fact, they asked the babysitter who saw Jaws, and they says, can we take the kids? You think are they too young? The babysitter said it's a pretty good movie, except for the part where the guy gets bitten in half, on the boat. And then, but I was most terrified as a kid because every time they had the ocean level with the people's legs dangling, so on the big screen you see the ocean, the legs in the sky. So I was waiting for the shark to bite him off, which that didn't happen except for the one guy in the kayak or whatever he was in. So
that's because the shark kept sinking in the ocean and they couldn't do it. So they created the music to make you think there's a shark right there.
No, you're right. The music
kept falling, breaking.
The music was what
John Williams.
We got you. There's awesome tune. Just really quick before we get on with the show, movie Halloween. The very first one, I love that movie too, John Carpenter. Now, if you watch that movie without the music or the dialogue, that was probably going to be one of the worst movies ever made.
Yes.
And I read this, and it was terrible. It got terrible ratings. So Carpenter, he took it off the big screen, and he added the music.
Only took him 3 days to make it.
Yeah, and then when he adds the music, that movie just took off as an iconic horror flick. And yeah, that's also in my top 10 as well.
And you know, all of those horror flicks, including the Jaws, I can still hear the music in my head. Like, you know.
It's because the music is like part of the acting. They're the actor.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like if you take away that music from Jaws 2, it'll be probably a bore.
Right. It would be.
I mean, how would you be scared without that sound?
Right.
No, the music, I tell you what, it's interesting that music makes or breaks a lot of movies. And that's,
it does.
You know, it's fantastic. So getting on with the show, you know, I was on Eric's show a couple of days ago. We had a great show, I thought. Yeah. And, you know, we talk about everything, a lot of different things on this show, but, you know, so I was sitting about 10 in the morning having a cup of coffee, and I know I got Eric coming on Paranormal Highway on YouTube. Please, everyone, subscribe if not already, because I see a lot of Eric's fans in chat already. And I was thinking, because your channel is so unique, I figure let's spend a couple minutes talking about your channel a little bit for those that haven't seen it, because what I love about it, you present a lot of good humor. You have different varieties to your shows. Yes. You're serious. You talk Bigfoot, and we'll get into some of that. You talk paranormal. You talk aliens. You talk UFOs, and you integrate other video clips. You integrate some other videos from perhaps the news or from a person that sends you a video. But you do ultimately have honest and true discussion on it. And it's a variety. Every time I don't know what to expect. So, which is really unique. So how did you come up with that idea? Because it is unlike a lot of shows on YouTube.
Well, I change it up here and there. I mean, sometimes they're not exactly the same as I did in the past. But the thing that's always the same is the variety. I love the variety. I get bored of talking about the exact same thing. But for the flavor now, what I've been doing this summer and going on is like, I made like Monday now. Monday is UFO Monday. Tuesday is Bigfoot Tuesday. Thursday is Paranormal Thursday. And Friday could be a mix of anything. Like today I did a paranormal show, you know, and I did something different this week too. You know, I decided to do like when I did the UFO show on Monday, I took the two big events, like in 1947, the Roswell and the Maui Island incident. Which one is the bigger story for you? And it gives you an opportunity to talk about both and kind of see where people vote on. Today, we did it on the Amityville Horror House versus the Conjuring House. You know, what's the feel? What's the story? What's the real facts? And if I could get a guest on to give their opinion, bring it on. Tomorrow is going to be even more interesting. Tomorrow is about first contact using satellites. You know, for example, you know, we have a satellite out there inviting aliens to come to the planet with languages and all that in it. So I got a person named Ron that's from Cosmic Neighbor that knows about satellite. Our brother's actually coming back on. He's a known archaeologist, and we're going to put our heads together and talk about, well, our first real contact be with satellites. I know right now people chat like, Eric, they're already here. You guys know what I'm talking about. The first real conversation with an alien from another planet. And will it be because of satellites? So I love the different variety, different opinions, because it makes it fresh. You bring people on. Like you and I on Tuesday, we probably went all over the place. But back to your book in a way. You know, it was fun. It was great. And that's the way I like it.
Yeah, we talked about quite a bit on that show. We talked about the book a little bit and some of my other weird things that happened to me throughout life and getting into talking about weird stuff. I know that you've had a Bigfoot encounter, and I'm not so sure if you've had other paranormal experiences. For those, what I'd like to, since it is, of course, Brunch with Bigfoot, Mr. Rob, I like to revisit your Bigfoot encounter experience that you had, because I do remember it. I find it pretty fascinating, and there's a lot of people haven't heard it.
If people haven't heard it, you know, it's what's cool is the encounter just wasn't one or two people. It was our whole family. It was like there was like 11 and 12 of us, because to put it in perspective, I feel kind of lucky that I grew up in a family that we went hunting every year. I mean, we were in the mountains hunting. We were, I'm from Fresno, California. We used to go up in the Sierra Mountains, Yosemite Mountains, above Oakhurst, a place called Poison Meadows. And back in the 80s, 70s, 80s, and even 90s, that during that time, there was a respect factor between hunters. What I mean is there's a spot by Poison Meadows that we always go to. And other campers know that, so we go to the same spot every single year. But of course, you go that now, people don't have respect anymore. People first come, first get. It's a whole different atmosphere it is now. So we go to this place called Poison Meadows. Beautiful. We can't. There's like between, I don't know, 12 to 20 of us, because it's almost like a family reunion, because our whole family are all hunters and campers. And we have this beautiful meadow, like just open grass, and there's water. I mean, if you want a chance to see animals and deer, you're gonna see it. Now you see more does than bucks, because bucks are smart. They're not gonna walk around with a bunch of hunters.
Yeah.
Bucks know when it's hunting season. They really truly know. That's why it takes a challenge to find them. But there's a way let me say this. My parent, I only grew up with one parent, father. My mom left when I was a baby, so it was like a boys' house. I had two other brothers. It was all just men and all that. So every time we go in the mountains, we've learned to respect the land. They always taught us, you got to respect this land, because this is not your land. This is their land. They used to talk about the bears, the grizzlies, and they even mentioned Bigfoot. Like, this is Bigfoot's land. This is bear land. So for the longest time, Bigfoot was part of a conversation that was just a normal conversation, like any other animal, squirrels, everything. Even this is a true fact. Even when I went back to school, talk about Bigfoot and stuff, people I didn't know that people treated Bigfoot like a fairy tale. They did. Us, we didn't have internet. There was no internet. There was like any TV. I thought Bigfoot. I know Bigfoot's real, but was real to everybody. But learn I'm not. I always have kids saying, "How do you believe Bigfoot's real?" Well, how did you believe that Santa Claus was real? People talked about it all the time. So we always thought Bigfoot was real, because we're taught, and we always thought, be nice to them, they'll be nice to you. Don't harm them, they won't harm you. Because when you got to go bathroom, you got to go out in the woods, you probably go by yourself.
So really quickly, then, you were brought up to believe that, then, where you live in the Pacific Northwest. That was a thing.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't Northwest, of course. I was in California at that time.
Or Fresno, I'm sorry, but
in the Sierra Mountains. Yeah. But my father, the whole family believed in Bigfoot, because they all had their semi encounters. But at the time, when they tell us their stories, you thought about it, they're just telling stories. They're just exaggerating on the story. You know what I mean? Like nighttime ghost stories type of deal. But the day that we had our encounter, we have a system on how we go hunting during the day.
Okay.
We have a group that walks. We have a group that drives. The people who drive are usually the older people that can't walk, their knees are a little messed up. And then we have like a meetup point where one will go this way and the drivers will go this way, and then we'll meet up at a certain time at a place outside of Poison Meadow with like these three huge rocks. It's like, that's our symbol, the three huge rocks. And we'll meet up, around 5 or 6 o'clock before it gets dark. And it's a way to, the idea was maybe they could flush out the deer, we'll catch it in the car, or vice versa. They'll catch on their end. Or it was just a way to make sure that everybody was safe. Everybody's counted for. It's just, if somebody's lost, we still might have an hour left, a little bit of daylight to go find somebody. But of course, nobody ever got lost. Everybody's usually pretty good. And when we all got in the vehicle, everybody got in. There's like 3 vehicles, pickup trucks. Everybody gets in. So there was like a total of 11 of us, and all family members. A couple of friends that came up with us. I would say a couple of friends. So we got like normal. It was 1984. It was 1984. I always remember that year because I used the Van Halen album 1984 to remind me that's the year that it happened.
I remember that.
So,
Great album.
That's like my pinpoint. That's my pinpoint. So we all got in the vehicle, and we got to drive miles back to the camp. We're just driving. We always drive a little slow because it's not completely dark. Once it's dark, it's illegal to hunt deer. You're not supposed to.
Okay.
So, we're still looking, still deer, you're still hunters, even though we're together, then we're driving. Then I still remember to this day, my Uncle Johnny goes, and we heard this noise. And my Uncle Johnny goes, what the fuck is that? Exactly. I mean, that's how he said it. What the fuck is that? Because nobody's polite in our camp. And everybody looked, and there it was. It was standing on 2 feet. And I know the first thought of people's mind is a bear, right? And we're like, that is no bear. Everybody's like, that is not a bear. That thing is straight up, and it made like a distortion sound when it screamed, like a high pitch, the higher pitch. I don't want to say a woman's voice, but imagine a woman's voice in a distortion, a guitar distortion sound, like spread out. It was almost like that. We all heard it, and then the thing starts to take off, and then all the young people they're hunters. They had their weapons. They jumped off the vehicle. They didn't point the gun. They weren't trying to shoot it, but they want to see more of it because, hey, we were taught by our family these things are friendly anyway, so it's their fault. So the young people got out. I got out, and this is a true story. I didn't have my weapon with me. I actually had a fork. So I was running with the fork, and they were running with the weapons, and they were going through the woods, and you see it just never went back on 4 feet. Just stayed on 2 feet to the point you heard the crack of the ground. Follow to the point where everything was silence. It was like silent. Yeah. Everything just went silence. There was like no sound, no birds, no nothing. It was silence where the Bigfoot was just gone. Just gone. It was like you're chasing it, then all of a sudden, just gone. And everybody was looking around, looking for it. The only thing you heard was my Uncle Johnny and some other grown-ups like yelling at us saying, what the hell you're doing chasing something you don't know what it is. That thing could have turned around and killed every single one of you, which technically they're right. But when you're young, you don't care. And nobody was taught to be afraid of the thing, even in the first place. So we all went back and went back to the camp spot, and we all talked about it, and we all knew like, oh man, we finally had our first experience seeing Bigfoot. It was like a normal conversation. It wasn't like, oh my God, did we see? Because it was like the parents always said they've seen them before. So it was finally our time to see it. Now we did go back the next day. You could see the cracks on the ground. Now remember, nobody had phones, nobody had cameras, nobody had where you could film everything. And you saw the cracks, not really prints, but you saw the cracks, and you saw it to the point where it was gone. Now, we had a guy named Buck. Now, he mentioned that while we were chasing it, he said he saw a light in the sky, but nobody could verify that. That was just him himself. So I'm not saying that's related to what we saw, because that was just one person. But we looked, and it was just like gone. You sit there thinking, now, of course, nowadays you hear stories about there's a portals and all that. I'm not saying there's a portal, or, my idea is, why was it gone? I started thinking about, because my whole family's military. I was in the military. We were all in the military. When you got the Green Berets, you got the Rangers, you got whatever, the Navy SEALs, they learn to hide. They can hide. If you really think about it, this is their land. They know their land better than us. It's probably more trained than a Green Beret, you know what I mean? Like its own land. So I don't think he went to a portal. I just think he either maybe climbed or something, or it hit itself. Now, some people believe that they can camouflage with the forest. Mm-hmm. I mean, that could be a possibility, but we know it's real because we've seen it. And like I said, it wasn't just myself or 11 of us. Until this day, nobody has ever changed their story. Everybody still believes, all 11 that are still with us. It's been a long time ago. Some passed away. We all know we saw that it was Bigfoot. There was no doubt in our mind that it was not a bear, because a bear would eventually ran on all four. It stayed on 2 feet. That famous, oh God, the famous Bigfoot footage, the biggest one,
Patterson-Gimlin.
Yeah.
We didn't care when that video came out. No offense, nobody really cared about it. We're like, wow, what are the chances of somebody having a camera to be able to catch that, right? And even though the guy worked for a movie company that actually had a camera, nobody cared. But after that incident, everybody went back and looked and trying to compare, like, did it look like that? And it didn't. The one we saw had more longer hair than in that footage. But that event made us look at some other footages going back, trying to try to do a comparison. Now, of course, that footage became a little bit more sacred to us. But in the beginning, we're like, oh, that's fake. That's, you know what I mean? It's like you said, I think, Rob, it's nothing is 100% real until it actually happens to you, unfortunately, when you start becoming a true believer.
Yeah, you hear the stories all the time, and it's like, as a kid growing up, I saw Leonard Nimoy, the Bigfoot. He did a show on Bigfoot. I saw Patterson Gimlin, and I'll tell you, back as a kid and younger, I thought, "Wow, this is awesome," and I was immediately drawn to Bigfoot. Now, did I think it existed or not? Well, as a young kid, I was like, "Oh my god, yes!" Right? Then of course, you go through life, and I would watch anything that was available to television regarding Bigfoot. I would watch, which was hardly nothing outside of In Search of, right? But you bring up a cool point too, and I know we'll get into this. You've also did a series. I was part of the series, and maybe about 10 other people, where you had Bigfoot experiencers come on and talk about their stories, which we'll get into a little bit. But you keep mentioning about the First Nations people, then the tribes, and a lot of them, and I'm going to ask your opinion of this. I think that Bigfoot is both flesh and blood, but I think it's supernatural. Now, with some of the tribes, and not all, refer to Bigfoot as something just spiritual in nature, transparent, an entity, protector of the forest. So, with all the people you've spoken with and interviewed, what is the conception that you get from everybody? They think, like myself, a combination, or do you think there's one thing or another thing?
See, everybody I talked to, of course, with your interview, Tex was on there before, Pine Island Research. Nona Boss, that's actually in the chat, she went on there and talked about her Bigfoot experience. And when I listened to her, hers was a beautiful Bigfoot experience where she kind of felt the Bigfoot, like it wasn't going to harm you. And, what I've learned through yours and like Pine Island Research, that Bigfoot had a chance to hurt either one of you, like really, really hurt you, and it didn't. So is it supernatural? I don't want it to be supernatural. Is there a chance it could be? Yes. But I want it to be on its own. You know what I mean? I want it to be real on its own. So, and everybody I researched, I did not hear paranormal side of a supernatural. No, except hold on. Now, I did had the She Squatchers on my channel before, and I remember because they were mediums before they hunted cryptids, and I remember them telling us that they saw orbs before they saw their encounters, and they felt the Bigfoot. So I guess there was some paranormal kind of a connection when they told us that story, but that was only like one story. Most everybody who came on, it was flesh. It was real. There was nothing really supernatural, like it turned into an animal or it vanished. And I think these things are full-blooded, real. I don't want to say species. I think they're like humans, and I think they're smarter than us.
I like to say like a hybrid human, because I think they are flesh and blood. I think that they are flesh and blood.
Yeah, they're flesh and blood.
And when I say paranormal, and again, referring back to First Nations, they call it a spirit, a walker of the woods, a spirit of the woods. I wouldn't say like transparent. I would say they are flesh and blood. What I think is they've got a 1,200-pound creature. They have all this energy. And I believe, now here's what I believe. And I always say this, Krista knows this, with Rob Moorhead's philosophy or his theory about, turning that mass into energy, and that's how they can move around so fast from area to area. Not that it's like supernatural or from another realm. Now, people think they might come in and out of portals, which I got to tell you, that's a possibility. But I do think that they are, first and foremost, I think they're a hybrid human, and I think they are flesh and blood. I think that you can, we find hair samples, we find scat, right? So, yeah, that makes it a physical being. But I think some of the abilities that it has, things that we can't do. I can't cloak in the woods. right?
Right.
I do believe Bigfoot can cloak in the woods
Yes.
because you can transfer that energy. So, but again, when I say that, I'm not saying that it's a ghost or you can throw a rock through the image in the woods, right?
Well, look at all the animals. The instincts, the smell, they can smell better than we can. They can see better than we can. There are species that can look like the environment to survive or so they don't get eaten themselves. And every single year, there's 2,000 new species that we find every single year. Now that would make more sense, right? With all the pictures that people have taken, they're like trying to fold out an image from a black space or and all that. If they camouflage, then those pictures make more sense, and it would make those pictures even more real if we know that they could camouflage. And of course, I know DNA is the most popular thing to do now, but you still need a lot of DNA from more than just one or two, three Bigfoots to start do a verification of if some little item in DNA that you don't recognize. You need to match it. So it's going to still be a lot of years. And of course, DNA needs to drop in price because how many people, like Rob, you're saying that people have found hairs, have found stuff that has never got it checked because real DNA testing still is about $2,000-$3,000. So how much DNA is actually out there that we're not investigating, but we just can't afford to investigate it? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you. Chris, you want to chime in? I know I've been monopolizing the conversation.
No, you're good. I'm just absorbing and listening.
So, when it comes to DNA, though, you're right. It is expensive. Like you and I, if I went in the field and found a piece of hair, I'm not going to turn it into a lab. And then again, you even come across this. I'm not going to get into now. Melba Ketchum's got some DNA analysis, which she's done. It was proven or shown to be part human and part unknown, right? I mean, that's not the scientific term I use. I'm not a science guy, but I will say this: that the average Joe is not going to turn that in. Now, what if you turned in that DNA, that piece of hair, that scat? How do you know that these labs discover that maybe this is something, that this guy's onto something, and either A, they keep it to themselves or they
Right.
brush it under the rug because they don't want to disclose. I'll tell you right now, every piece of DNA that gets sent to a laboratory, I guarantee you that there's some sort of alphabet agency
Mm-hmm.
that is keyed into this and knows because they don't want this brought to the public.
Absolutely.
You don't know how many shows we actually talked about that. Like, who do you trust even in the first place? How do you know if they get something that's unusual, they're not going to report it to you first. They're going to report it to their people, and they're going to tell them, okay, you can't say anything. Say this. Say it's just unidentified or whatever. You don't know. That's the problem. This is why we do shows like who can you trust? Who can you go to? And there's certain names out there that everybody always says.
Sure.
But when there's only a certain names, I mean, how many people do they have sending stuff to them? I mean, you need more people, but again, you don't know who to trust. That's the issue. I think somebody wrote right there. Danny wrote, "Yeah, I found hair. It cost me $1,700 to find out if it was an undetermined canine species." Not everybody has $1,700.
Well,
Right.
Danny does, and thanks for that, Danny. I appreciate your investment into find out what you just found out. I don't know how happy you were with that.
Which is interesting because an
You did
undetermined
unknown canine species. Now I'm thinking dog man,
right.
right?
What come to my mind?
You did mention something earlier about Native Americans up above California. There's a lot of Native Americans, and some of the sources did tell us that the Bigfoot, for them, they used to protect their village. They would do trades, throughout history. They we'll give you this, you give us us, and you protect our village, until us took their land and all that. So if there's some truth to that, I mean, Bigfoot will never have trust in other. I'm not saying we're a village or other people, but we did destroy their land, took them off of it. So if that's true that they used to do trades with the Bigfoot, why would they even trust us? Why would they show themselves to us? Now, I think I'll give you. Let me tell you this, Rob. you know, and then somebody will ask me, Eric, then why did that Bigfoot show itself to you guys? And I honestly feel the reason it showed itself because it knew us, because we camp at the same spot every year. And I feel that it knew that we respect nature and we're just not going to go out without a license and go hunt an illegal bear, not when it's not bear season, or shoot a doe. I think it knew us because we went to the same spot every single year. Now, I can't prove that, of course, but I really felt it knew us. So it was giving us a glance. And of course, if something chases you, you're going to run.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But because this thing could have turned around and kill us. You know, if it was a bear, it could turn around and kill us.
I do think a lot of times, I'm going to revert back to something that Krista says a lot, and Brandy, you mentioned the word intentions. I think that Bigfoot absolutely knows your intentions when you walk in the forest. And if you're just a camper, a hiker, or if you're a person that just wants to be one with nature, they get it. They know what your intent is, right? You know that you're a good person or whatever. You're just exploring. If you're scared
and not that kind of thing. Yeah.
Now you get some Yahoo that's running through the woods, intent on finding a Bigfoot and shooting a Bigfoot. Then you know what? They're going to stay far away. Because let's face it, from what I've learned over the years, is they just want to be left alone, man. And that's what I think it is, and that's why it's so hard to find them. And with that being said, I like to switch gears just a little bit because we talk about Bigfoot, but I'd like to know, Eric. Now we've heard the Bigfoot encounter. I'd like to ask you, being the Paranormal Highway, have you personally had anything else? Now it could be Bigfoot, don't get me wrong, but have you come across anything in your lifetime that was paranormal or something you did not understand?
I could tell you the story of Gettysburg that I told Jessica Jones on her channel.
Yeah, go for it. We got plenty of time before break. So yeah.
All right.
I don't think I heard it. I missed that one.
Okay, because this is you ever heard of if something looks too real, they're just in your mind that it just can't be true. And I know this is going to be hard for a lot of people to take in if they never heard this. Okay, I took a job in Maryland. So I went from Washington to Maryland for a cable job to be a supervisor manager up in Frederick, Maryland. And if anybody knows where Frederick, Maryland is, the next town over is Gettysburg. It's only I don't know, 10, 15 miles from Frederick. And of course, Frederick, I didn't really like the town Frederick. It wasn't for me. At the time, my wife and kids were still living in Washington because, got to sell the house, got to move up to Maryland. Of course, we moved back to Washington later on. But my brother actually took a job at the Smithsonian Museum up in Washington, D.C. So he actually went up there and lived with me for a while because he took a job at the Smithsonian. So, and a lot of times we always go to Gettysburg. I mean, it's like Gettysburg was just fun because everybody dressing the silver outfits all year round. And my brother, we went on a Sunday morning because at that time when states were banning smoking in restaurants, my brother smoked. I didn't. I told my brother, actually in Gettysburg, you still smoke at a restaurant. So I was like, oh, let's go. So we went to Gettysburg. We had breakfast and we're driving. Then all of a sudden we saw this. If everybody knows Gettysburg, there's all these fields. They got the little town, but there's all these fields. And there's this we're like, oh look, there's a reenactment. But it wasn't a reenactment of people shooting like in a war zone reenactment. It was like medical. There's medical tents, there's people with missing arms and legs. So we're like, oh, this is fantastic. And we're like, and there was parking right up front. It was real early in the morning. We go up there on Sunday because the idea is a lot of people in the Midwest go to church on Sundays. Maryland, they also go to church. So we get there, we're like the only one there. We get out of the car, and this lady came up to us. Now, there's a split memory between me and my brother on this part. The lady came up, and she had all this basket. She had a basket full of bread. And she goes, "Did you bring something for the feast? You know, because I guess you're supposed to bring something if you're going to eat there." But we didn't know. Like, oh, we just came from the battlefield. You know, we're playing along. We just came from the battlefield. We don't have anything. They stole our gear. Now my brother remembers it was potatoes, because I guess they put potatoes in you know, making soup, whatever. And potatoes, bread. I'm not saying there is a true split memory, but he remembers potatoes. I remember bread. I know they can almost like a look-alike, so I can kind of see maybe we crossed it. So we go there, and there's all these medical tents. There's the soldiers, the arms cutting off. Like, man, this thing looks real. This is fantastic, and we're the only ones here. We're the only ones at this whole place. And I went to like one tent where they're cutting horsehair and they're boiling it. And I'm like, wow, hey, why are you boiling the horsehair? Oh, because we ran out of thread. So we boil the hair to make it softer. And the Southern soldiers the doctors were there too, because I guess, you know, when people get injured, they just want to heal the people. It wasn't really matter who's on the north or south side. So a lot of the north doctors were learning a lot from the south doctors about how to fix wounds and not having infections. They learned by boiling products. They learned that by boiling hair. We learned there. So they're boiling hair. We're just learning. There's like a big fire. We're sitting around the fire talking to these soldiers. And I remember my brother's like, dude, we've been here almost like two hours now, and nobody else is showing up. No other car has pulled up, just us. And every person that came in, they were talking like back in those days, the Southern, the Northern. We thought really nothing of it. They brought us some flat beer. Now, my brother said it wasn't flat beer. They were making something else, but that's another memory cross that, it, you know.
Oh, that's a terrible memory, flat beer. I just go ahead, continue on.
Well, when they make it there, it tasted flat, because when they make it there, you know, you're making it on the field. So my brother said they were making something else, but whatever it wasn't great. You know, and you just saw all these wounds. Okay, so it was getting a little bit later, and we're like, man, this was so much fun. This was great. We ate, we drunk, and my brother, he made a good point. See, I told you it was a beer because we're not buzzing or drunk at all. Yeah, you're right. You're right. So we get in our car, and this is like 4 or 5 hours. We get in our car, we get out of Gettysburg, and we look at our watch, and we're like, huh, we've only been there an hour? That's strange. I go, there's no way we've only been an hour. We've been there 4 or 5 hours. But in our watch, it said we're only there for an hour. Now, this is where it starts getting interesting, people. So we get back to you know, my apartment. My brother went back to his job at Smithsonian. He was telling some people, hey, we went to a reenactment down there. And then tell my brother, there was no reenactment down there. There was nothing down there, because Smithsonian knows, because sometimes they'll loan gear out when people do reenactments.
Yeah.
So apparently there was no reenactment. My brother comes back and goes, Eric, there was no reenactment. There was nothing there. Like, no fucking way. It was too freaking real. The costumes, the blood, the talk, you know, the tents. So we drive back up there, and looking at the ground where all the tents are, you know, you're expecting to see holes or stuff in the ground, or some kind of a dent because there was a fire. No fire marks, no holes, no nothing. Like nothing has ever happened. So we go back the weekend, so we asked the town people, hey, that reenactment was fun. They're all like, there was no reenactment. There was nothing there. And it's so hard to comprehend, because it was real. I mean, it was like, we talked to the person with the bread, the food, the tents. You know, we saw the general tents where they took, if you're a general, if you're a high up officer, you get special treatment. You get the special treatment. You get the best doctors, where everybody else gets, I'm not saying crappy, but you don't get the good stuff. Like, there's no freaking way. And we looked up to this day. There is no record of a reenactment. There's nothing. And my brother's like, listen, there's a reason why we didn't see nobody else showed up. And to this day, it seemed too real that it technically did not happen, but we were there, and apparently it did not happen. And this happened. There's two of us. It wasn't like I had a dream. We were there sitting with them.
Wow.
This is like you're in a different dimension, dude.
Yes. Yeah, because like I said, we got back in the car. We had a time difference. Now there's a few things. My brother had a different memory that I have, but I can't believe if we went to a time dimension, there's no way that could be a difference of our memory. But I don't know. It's anything's possible, right? I mean, anything. It's not like seeing a ghost just walking across. We were literally talking to these people. Apparently, it never happened.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Nell, for that amazing super chat. Chris is my paranormal girl, amongst other things. I've got a lot of things in my mind, but I want your 2 cents on this because you've done way more investigations than I've done. What are you thinking with this story? With
I'm
this
almost
encounter?
thinking that it was ghosts. I'm like you, almost like going back in a time, different, like time zone. Like
ghosts, you can see through a ghost, right? And these were like flesh and blood people. That's what makes it so hard on ourselves, because there is no evidence of you're talking to a ghost. I'm not saying I'm not expert. I talk to ghosts all the time, but you know what I mean. There'll be something off, but this was like real, actual people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know that it was actually like maybe you were actually there with them. It wasn't a ghost. I don't know. Just my thoughts. Anything's possible.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around this. It's like, for me, when I listen to this, it's like, you're there, you're seeing this, but there's no record of it. It's like you almost walk through even a portal, right? You hear about people walk through portals and they're at a different time. You can walk back into medieval times. You've heard stories about people like you or I. You walk through and you're in medieval times, and all of a sudden you're dressed in your modern day clothes, and there are people running around in knight's armor and torn away clothing, peasant looking clothing, and they right away have to find other clothing so they blend in, right? Now, of course, it sounds like science fiction, but I've heard these stories before.
Yeah.
And to me, that's like you walk somewhere. Fortunately, you're able to get back. So now my head is spinning with this fabulous story, which I 100% believe happened. There's no doubt, because it's not the first time I've heard something similar to this. But man, Eric, dude, mind blowing.
It's to this day, it just seemed too real. It just looked too, and that's the problem that for yourself to accept. Seeing that Bigfoot is easy. Saying, I know that's real, even though that's flesh and blood too. But when you go back to this, it's like, it can't. There's just no way. It can't. And you research, you ask people, when you ask people in its own town, they would know if they're having a reenactment.
So how much missing time was there?
We felt we were there for about 4 or 5 hours. And and I know I glanced at my watch, like it was feeling later in the day, or like, dude, I think we got to start, getting back, because it's Sunday. He's got to go back. He's got to go back. He has to go from Frederick all the way to Washington D.C. So to go back, and it's just like, and it almost felt weird in a way, because it felt like it did get a little dimmer while we were there, but when we took off, it did seem like it did get a little brighter.
Wow.
But you don't really pay too much attention to that. And, some things we still tried to accept, like, well, then, but we were wearing our clothes. Now, my brother says, yeah, but we wear stupid clothes. They might thought we were just part of them or something, like, I don't know, casual soldiers. I don't know. And we're like, you know what? And there weren't nobody else that showed up. And that, and we said that during the thing. I remember during sitting there at the campfire spot, we're like, isn't it weird? Nobody else showing up? Is everybody are that much into church? Do people not travel to Gettysburg on Sunday? We were thinking about some of that. And I know we said a couple things like, my God, I remember saying, Bob, these people go all out. They're going, look at that. They go, how do they fake that? You know what I mean? And but your mind, you're like, they must have doing it. I go, these people really like what they're doing. They really get into this reenactment. We keep telling ourselves, this is the coolest reenactment we ever saw because this is medical side. This is a medical tent. This wasn't fighting over the hill because they said the fight was over a couple hills that way. And they bring in, and we learn some history that a lot of things that the North doctors learned was from the South doctors. We learned that after this event, and because we saw the South doctors teaching them how to boil. You boil this. This will help to not have infections on these wounds when we sew them up. Because they learned that because horsehair is thick. To get it looser, they had to boil it, and we learned that there. And it was just one of those things that I don't know. You know what I mean? It's just you can still picture it, but you're like, how can that be not real?
Wow, that's pretty incredible.
And nothing like that has ever happened again.
If it happened again, you'd have to seriously look into I tell you, because I think, to me, I'm still mind blown. I think you crossed dimensions, man.
I do too.
Now we did move away a year later back to Washington because I just didn't care too much about Frederick. If he would have stayed, if he would have kept going back, will it happen again? Because we did keep going back for a while, but nothing has ever happened again. We never saw another reenactment. It was just like, wow, was it the right time, right place? Did we just get picked? Did we, or just did a wormhole kind of just happen? You know what I mean? Or did we not go through time? Was it real ghosts look real? But then how that explain the time difference?
Yeah, we maybe have to revisit that when we come back, because we are coming up on our 5-minute break for our sponsors before we cut out for the 5 minutes. No, we're not going anywhere. For a lot of the new people and their things are coming on in, please subscribe if not already. Bigfoot Mission Rob, Paranormal Highway, and of course the Blondes and Booze Paranormal Podcast. And a big thank you to Noah and Derek for your awesome super chats. It's a great way to help support what we do around here. I do appreciate that. So does Krista. Eric Wood, we'll be back. Fantastic show. One of my favorites of the year. We'll be back in 5. BMR, Krista, and Eric Wood.
Four minutes to go, folks. 4 minutes. Three minutes. We're almost there. 2-minute warning, guys. 2-minute warning. One minute. 1 minute.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Brunch with Bigfoot, Michigan Rob, and Krista. Thank you to Eric Wood, Paranormal Highway. Please subscribe on YouTube. He's got a great show. I love the guy. I love what he does. He's awesome. Check him out. Great show so far. Speaking of shows throughout the week, Mondays is Texas Front Porch. That comes on at 9 o'clock in the East. Tuesday, Van Buren Variety, 8 o'clock in the East. Beyond BMR, 9 o'clock in the East. Again, those are Tuesday nights. Jason McLean does something called Mysterious Library and Untold Radio AM. Check out Jason. Wednesday is the Diva Dimension on Texas Front Porch. That comes on at midnight. Thursdays is back here. Brunch with Bigfoot, Michigan Rob, 1 o'clock in the East. The Blondes and Booze Paranormal Podcast follows up tonight, 9 in the East. If you need a little woo with the booze, Friday, 9 in the East, the Blondes, the Booze, and the Woo, Krista and Brandy. Check them out Fridays, Saturdays. Texas Front Porch, Infamous Minds, Tex, Danielle Diva. If you're into true crime, go check them out, 3 o'clock in the East. And I always have to mention my lovely friend Jessica Jones, Space Style Radio, 10 of these Saturday and Sunday. She is the Cryptid Huntress. You can also find her on her channel. She has shows throughout the week as well. And speaking of Space Style Radio, good old BMR will be on Space Style Radio. My buddy Dave Scott, Monday, promoting my new book found on Amazon. I pinned the link at the top of the page for everybody if you want to go check it on out. I'm pretty proud of it, pretty happy with it. I'll put up the cover really quick for everybody. Yes, Bigfoot, Michigan Rob presents True Cryptid Encounters, Book 1. My little scrolling thing cuts off my name, but that's okay. So that's out, available on Amazon. Thanks for the people that have purchased it already. I do appreciate that. So, yeah, I'll be on Monday talking about the book, Space Style Radio, Dave Scott. That's 12 in the East, 9 o'clock Pacific time. So let me get rid of that. I'm going to bring up Krista. You know, Krista, I see my little icon with the internet going. Am I still on?
You are.
Okay, good. I hate when I see that thing. When I see that little internet icon, for the life of me, it just went away. For the life of me, I'm plugged into the router and my Wi-Fi is off. Why do I see that? I don't know.
Well, knock on wood, it's been better
Yeah.
today than it has been.
Well, it's been pretty good, except for here and there. You get the glitch, and I keep saying I'm getting new internet, and I'm going to because I just can't stand it any longer. I can't.
I hear you.
And I hate talking about that. I do want to say thank you for the super chats. A great way to support the program, the YouTube channel. To know and Derek, thank you for your contribution. I do greatly appreciate that. And so far, so good. Great show.
Yeah.
Before we bring up Eric really quick, what do you got going on tonight on the Blondes and Booze, Krista?
Tonight we have Midwest Night Watchers and Chiro Sounds, I've seen both of them in the chat today. So that'd be fun. And then tomorrow night we have Rachel Stratton and Brian Murray from the TV show Ghost Hunters.
Absolutely. Everybody, please subscribe to Krista and Brandy, the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast. Great show. I really enjoy it, as you well know. I'm bringing up Eric. Eric, bro, man, thanks for coming on. It's a great show. Fantastic. Fantastic. I've never heard such a story like that.
Now, Rob, I worked for the cable company for over 15 years. And so I've been hearing all your problems. I know how you said, like, once a show, you'll like freeze and all that.
Yeah.
Do you happen to know what your upload speed is? Because everybody always concentrates on the download and not realizing that the upload speed is very important.
I think it's 50 MPMBSB or something.
Well, that's 50. Down. See, there's a up, there's a down and up. And
I bought the package. I bought the tier that says 500.
Okay. I might have
so that. Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that privately because
cable blood in me.
No. I'm glad that I got an expert on the show. We'll talk about. I'll get in touch with you a little later because I bought almost the best package you can get. I think second tier down and. So yeah, I don't know, but I understand why.
Maybe you have to buy the best package.
Well, if
that's what I did, and I knock on wood.
If I sell more books, and you can find them on Amazon, maybe I can afford it.
See, there is a difference between getting internet through cable and telephone. If telephone. Now, I get it through my telephone, and the upload speed is fantastic. So I have zero issues.
Well, I don't have a upload. Yeah, I don't have a home phone because I just.
Well, you don't have to have a home phone. They have internet-only telephone lines. It depending on the area you live in, if you're upgraded for it. Because I actually have fiber to the house.
Well, I don't want to bore the people with my issue, but it is plugged. I will tell you that my computer is plugged into just wherever it's plugged into, but it's not plugged into a telephone line. Maybe I should switch it onto the telephone line later. I don't know. But again, I've been doing well. It happens once a show I freeze up. But enough of that. Enough of me. Enough of my problems, my issues. So Eric, great again, fantastic show. Thanks for coming on. Everybody subscribe to Eric at the Paranormal Highway. So we've talked about that fantastic encounter, your Bigfoot encounter. I got to ask you because you've done so many different shows, and you've had guests on and. First of all, I should ask: have you had any other experiences that you'd like to share? It can be anything. It could be paranormal,
nothing like that dramatic. And first of all, let me just say, when Jessica Jones is, first of all, I haven't hijacked your channel on this one. Last time, remember, I hijacked it. I was taking over.
You did. I had Jessica Jones was one of my co-hosts before Krista. And I had Eric on, and Jessica's lovely. She's full of knowledge. And he starts interviewing Jessica Jones on my show. And I had to put the stops to that. I said, I love Jessica and all, but you guys, set it up for a later time. I love Jessica. I didn't mind it all. I thought it was cool. It was a fun show.
I love people, and I'm so interested in how people, are. But the only other kind of a fun, cool thing that actually happened on air. Danny Stanton was there during a live show. I was like, not really playing around. I was like, because every time I had a medium on my channel, like Amber's Perry World or Evolve the Paranormal, they always say, Eric, there's a ghost next to you. There's a ghost right next to you. There's this person next to you. Every time. And Amber, behind the scenes, she told me some things that, holy crap, that might be my brother you're talking about, who became my sister. I know how that sounds a little weird, but I actually had a brother, became a sister, and some of the things that she said, that, and he has a circle thing on his head. I'm like, oh my God. I go, my brother actually had cancer, and they actually had to take some skin off and put the butt. So there was a circle. So it was amazing. So one day on the show, I was like, can you make something move for me? I was asked, it was live on air, and I have this green screen that's really, it's tight. I mean, I have like pins pushed in it. It was pushed in it, and it was live on air. I was asking to move. Okay. And then I was like, then I heard something. I actually heard scratching noises on top of the corner. I'm like, guys, I hear scratching noises. And then all of a sudden, the whole screen just came down. It was pulled off. It was pulled out from the wall. It happened on air, and everybody who was watching it, I was just like so happy. I was like, oh my, something happened. It actually, something moved. Not just moved, it took my whole screen off. And this thing ain't on here like, it's on here good. Sure. Yeah. And I know people say, Eric, you probably did something to the screen. I go, hold on. This happened an hour and 35 minutes into the show. I put some tape on there to actually fall down at the exact same time when I asked it to move. I go, what are the chances of that?
Yeah. And I love Penny Van.
I was so excited. I mean, my heart was like, yes.
I love Penny Van's sense of humor. She's one of our funnier commentators in chat. Eric, right now you have several cryptids, a UFO, and an ET behind you, rolling on the floor laughing. I love you, Penny.
Penny Van rocks. She's awesome.
She's awesome. Hey, I got to tell you something, though. And there's some other people in chat. Midwest and Chiro, they're a couple. They're married. And I don't know what show this was on. It could have been on Texas Front Porch, or it could have been on their own personal show. By the way, shout out to Midwest. Go check him out. And Chiro, they have a cool show. But they had a show.
Tonight. They'll be on tonight.
They'll be on the Blondes tonight. And they had a show. They were doing a show, and Gerald was on. He's the host, him and Chiro. And I remember, I don't know if you saw this, Crystal. Where did I get that from? Oh, it's CJ, Crystal. I Crystal. God, I'm all over. But in the background, though, and maybe they could talk about it in chat, but there was orbs or something emulated out of the picture on their back wall.
Oh, wow. I did not see that.
Yeah, you guys check that out. I've seen that several times. There was,
wow.
Well, I'm
talk about creepy. Freezing.
Yeah, so I should be back now. Am I back now?
Yeah, you're back.
You're back.
We should have talked about it. We jinxed it.
Yeah, we all jinxed it. So anyway, let's move on. So okay, so you've done your show. I've watched it several times, many times. What's one of the coolest things you've gotten out of your show as far as stories that you can recite or remember that really had you like wondering what the hell's really out there? Something that really got you.
Well, one of the things that I have not really truly experienced is the UFO stuff. And what I mean is, I've seen stuff in the sky that we don't recognize. Of course, I remember as kids seeing stuff in the sky, but nothing, unless something lands in your backyard, they're just UFOs, undefined subject. So when I started having Anthony on, and when he told us about his abduction story, about him going up in the ship, and just when you listen to his story that he was riding his bike, or he was in the middle of the park and his parents were all there, and then he gets taken up and he's gone for hours. Everybody's looking for him, and he's telling us what the ship looks like, and he showed us like diagrams on the wound there. And the thing is, one of the things I've learned is I'm not saying I'm an expert of studying people, but when you study people, you look at how they tell a story, how they're acting, because being a supervisor and manager, you always work with people, especially from Washington, California, and Maryland. I learned how to kind of like study. You kind of know people very well. But he's telling that story. You felt that Anthony was in his mind. He's telling the truth that he really truly was abducted. And when he came down, the parents were mad, wondering why you're gone for so long. You're gone for like 5-6 hours. And he said he was only been gone for like an hour. And it kind of like, it's kind of weird because in my story of Gettysburg, I felt 4 or 5 hours and 1 hour. Just listen to his abduction story. You know, it's up to the individual person if they want to believe it or not. But the way he told it and said it, and every time I hear him tell that same story, I don't know if he told that story with text or not. I can't remember. But you notice when stories aren't fully real, there's always so many 1,000 changes in it. But, you know, he keeps the same main points. Sure. And also what's amazing about the guy is when he had a near-death experience riding on his motorcycle. I remember he's saying that he rode on his motorcycle. He crashed into a truck. He bit his tongue off. He actually had his whole tongue cut off and all that. And he said, and when he's telling us that the person he saw in his near-death experience wasn't like, it was like his uncle. And that he never really met before, just when he was a baby. And then he was going through some pictures, and there's a picture stuck to another picture. And we tore the picture. That was his uncle, as Mom pointed out. That was the person he saw in his afterlife. I mean, a picture that was stuck. He showed us the picture that the person that they saw. And again, when you're watching his body language, I even did like an interview I did with you, Rob. I did that same kind of interview with him telling that story. And, you know, it's kind of hopeful because one of the main things in life, is there life after death? Is there something out there? You know, are there people helping you out? You know, so those stories from Anthony, I got to tell you, after knowing him for so long, there's truth there. It really happened. Unless he's crazy, unless he's totally flat out nuts, those incidents really happen. And you only get that through, you know, interviews and stuff. And is there any way to prove it? I mean, you don't know when you're gonna get hit, but you're gonna run into a truck. You know, you don't know when you're gonna get abducted. How can you find proof like that?
Right.
You know, and Chris could probably chime in on this because I've spoken to like Barry Littleton, a few other people, and a lot of people that help others cross over. And I often ask the question. And Chris, you can probably help out. Is there a light? I mean, you hear the stories about you're on a gurney or you're in a hospital, you have major surgery, and then they lose you, and the person or they come back. Now, when they're supposedly passed on, they see either a light, and they're given an option. I've heard so many stories. I'm just going to pick on this one. You have an option. Do you want to pass through to the other side, or do you think you have other work to do on the planet? And you see a nice, beautiful light, and you feel enriched, and you feel like, wow, I just want to go. And on other occasions, I've heard you don't want to go because where you're going, not looking like fun, like the lake of hell, the lake of fire, right? So, what's your thoughts? Yeah, and Chris, I know you've got experience with that. What's your thoughts?
I mean, absolutely. I've heard other ones. I actually have a cousin who he had a stroke a couple years ago, and I hope he's not watching this because he hates to talk about it. But he actually, I believe that he had a near-death experience, and his encounter, there was an open door and it was closed on him, and honestly, to this day, he's upset that he wasn't able to go through the door. So I think it's all different for all of us. I feel like, you know, we're all here on unlimited time. And I think we haven't finished what we're here for, if that's the case.
You know, I like that. Yeah, I like that answer. And here's the thing, because I've experienced a lot of death in my family and friends over the last 3 years, quite a bit. And it all started when the first true death that I experienced of a loved one was my father 7 years ago. Other people have passed on before that, but not like someone I loved and cherished, right? And then I just wonder, when you're dead, is it like when you go to sleep, you don't know you're dead? I mean, it's just, you know, go to sleep, it's one of those sleeps, right, Kristen and Eric? You go to sleep, and you wake up and you had no idea you slept. You didn't dream. It was just one of those states.
Mhm.
Now, to me, that's how death is. Then I hear the stories about you when you die, you see a light or you see darkness.
Right.
But when I say darkness that you know you're seeing, right? So
Right.
it's the wonders of the world. We're not going to know until we truly pass on.
That's true. You
Yep.
know, there's 5 years that I worked for a medical company called KCI. We do these medical supplies, wound vacs to patients. So I was in charge, but there's a lot of times I got to go on the road because there's only like 3 of us. If somebody's out sick or on vacation, I got to go to all these hospitals. And there's been all around Washington, not the same hospital, all around the Puget Sound, all the up near the Canadian border. And sometimes you hear the same story from these people when you go inside their room, because you got to go inside the room, hook up the machine. And I'll tell you, I thought I just saw my dad or mom. I just saw my uncle. I thought you were that person. And you heard it more than one person. But what's weird about these stories, every time I hear this from these people, within the next day or two, I'm back picking up the machine because they've passed away. So every time I hear that, I kind of know that they're going to be gone.
Right.
Tomorrow next day. I know doctors say the medicine, but the amount of people I've seen in so many different hospitals telling me like that same thing, it can't be just luck. It can't just be science says it's because they're putting this medicine in your body, because that many people are seeing somebody.
Yeah, I agree.
Before my father passed away, I didn't know he was going to pass away. He actually passed away on Memorial Day of all day. We went and saw him. He goes, "Oh God, guys, I just saw my mom and dad. They were just talking to me saying everything's cool, everything's all right." And we didn't know he was going to pass away the next day. The next day, he passed away.
Yeah, that's very common. My daughter does hospice, and she talks about that. So very common, where people, they see loved ones, or they'll get like a burst of energy. They're usually bedridden and can't talk, but then you'll get something out of them, or it's just weird how that works.
So, Krista, something that happened to us that we don't know if this is spiritual or it just happened to be luck. So it was a day going to my father's funeral. It was at a memorial park because he's military. There's, they're going to have the shooting, the whole ceremony with the folding of the flag. We get there. It was raining. It was pouring down rain. Just Seattle, it's Washington. It was raining. We get there. First of all, the date that we were told, my wife and I were told, well, apparently they said, "Oh, this is not to next week." So we have family there. We have everybody up there, to do this ceremony, and it wasn't going to happen. And they didn't even have the plate cover for the wall that he's going onto. So we're like, oh well, you know what? We're gonna do it anyway. This always seems like it happens to the Wood family. We're gonna do it anyway. So everybody pulls up, parks, rain stops. Not raining. It was like a sunlight kind of like shine down. So we're there giving our speeches, that kind of a thing. All of a sudden, our plaque actually did count. UPS came early with it.
Wow.
Oh, wow. So they were able to put the plaque up, so that was cool. It was still not raining. And after we gave our speech, all of a sudden, all the cars that was parked out front all start to go off. And there was nobody walking. We're like, oh, that's Uncle Bob. He's just messing with us. Like our Uncle Bob did it because he was the Joker.
Yeah.
Telling us, right? Like, okay, well, the car is going off. Let's all get in the car, go back to my house, and we'll have our party. We all get in the car, start to go. Then they start hailing down rain, hailstorm, like just hit and rocks. We're like, what are the chances of, I don't know, having a bad thing happen, not having the ceremony with the rifles and all that, getting the plaque early, not raining, sunlight shine, cars go off, we get in the car, take off, and then it started hailing down rain. It was almost like it was meant to happen that way somehow.
You had some intervention. You had some help on the other side. I totally believe that. Yeah.
Because it was just like, everybody's like, that could just be luck. You're right. It could be luck, but
there's no chance. There's no such thing as like coincidence or none of that. I don't believe that. I believe you had help on the other side. That's my belief.
Yeah. And I felt it made it more special in that kind of a way. It was like, it was meant to happen that way.
Yeah. And your dad, I believe your dad was there, he was acknowledging things too, and that was maybe a sort of a validation from him to you.
And yeah. And of course,
Yeah.
we were angry at the place that we did. It was always next week. No, it wasn't. My
Right.
wife wrote it down.
And
Right.
again, it's so funny, and funny is not the right word, but I do believe, and Eric, we talked about this a couple days ago on your show, that when a loved one or somebody does pass on, I do believe they're with you, right? Now, not everybody in the world sees a spirit or a ghost of a brother, a
Right.
mother, a father, or best friend. A lot of us don't. I've
Mhm.
never seen an apparition of like my dad. And I told the story about my dad, Eric. Remember, I told a
Oh,
story about the
true.
small boat. And Krista, you've probably heard it about the American flag.
Yep.
I searched for this little microscopic, and believe it or not, this is what I needed to attach the flag. And 5 hours looking for this. And my dad it was a year after he died, and I'm
Mhm.
putting up his flag for my mom on the front porch. I went to the hardware store, all this, find it, nothing matched up, and I could not find it. It was like looking for a needle in a haystack. And I went in the basement about ready to cry. I just said, Dad, I want to put this up for you. I just can't do it. So one last time I went, I looked up, I got on the porch, I looked down, and I see this little glint,
There it was.
and there it was. And
Yep.
yes, I do believe today I did speak with Dad. I mean, not
Mhm.
through telepathy, but he heard me.
Yeah. And here's the thing, I believe, I lost my mom in December, and my grandma, who I was very close to, I lost her 12 years ago. But like, I don't care if you have abilities or not, or you feel you have abilities or not, if you think about them, literally pay attention, because you can feel them with you, your loved ones. I wholeheartedly believe that. And I don't care who you are, if you're missing your mom or your dad or somebody, just think about them, and you can feel their energy with you. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I've learned a lot about energy and all this stuff with Jessica when I first met her, then you and Brandy, and my eyes have been open to a lot of these things,
Yeah.
throughout for the last several years, and I was a person that wanted these things to be real, and I can say today that yeah, I believe a lot of this stuff is real. Now that I investigate and research more about this, read more
Yeah.
about this, talk to all my friends, yeah,
Mhm.
it's not a coincidence. It's something that happens.
Yeah.
And even
Yeah.
Ski Duke says energy doesn't die, neither does love. And I have to agree with
Right.
that statement.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
Energy
same
has
thing,
no
on a negative type, um, you just know, you know, yeah.
You know, and like I
Whether
tell
your relatives or whatever, I believe everybody, you go somewhere, and I believe everybody has some sort of abilities, but you go to maybe, I don't know, out to dinner or something just don't feel right, but maybe there's some
yeah,
sort of negative energy around or something. You just don't realize.
yeah, that's right. And my stories,
Mhm.
Crystal, the things I picked in life as a young boy growing up, picked out a guy who killed his grandma.
Right.
I can tell people if they're good, their intentions. I just can't. I just
Mhm.
thought it was natural.
Yeah. And
You know,
I believe everybody has that ability. I do. I mean, you walk into a room, whether you like somebody or not. At least I
That
have.
is true. You get a
Mhm.
feeling of a person without even talking to them first. Like
Absolutely.
I can feel I'm gonna, we're gonna be attached. You can tell. You
Yeah.
can tell.
Right. Right. Yep. Wholeheartedly believe that. It's just, I don't know, it's just weird, the way things work. I believe everything's possible. I've done, as you know, Rob, and some people in chat know, I've done some demonic cases, and I've seen things that people wouldn't believe, you know, is true and happened, but I swear they're 100% true.
and
So I believe
it's
everything's possible.
and I cannot wait because Krista, I do Beyond BMR Night Me and Text. I think you're gonna be, I believe, I text don't know this. I think I'm a shit can him. as my co-host for that night because we're having your mentor in demonology coming on, and I
Yep.
think it is.
It's Jeremy Leonard. I studied demonology.
Yeah, Jeremy Leonard. I think it's in 2 weeks. I'm really looking.
No, I
forward
think
to
it's
this.
just Tuesday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, let me look at the calendar.
Oh my gosh, because this is gonna
It's
that show's gonna
Tuesday.
freak me. Okay, so Krista and I and her mentor in demonology will be on next Tuesday at 9 in the East. We'll be talking some demonology.
Mhm.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm getting chills because that stuff just me, Krista. I'm a wimp when
Yeah.
it comes to that.
Yeah.
But
That is interesting.
yeah,
Because I
so
was
that's
wondering, demonology, are we talking more about just something that's evil, not good, or are we talking about something that if you have to believe in heaven and hell to exist
It's-
for a demon?
Demonology is something, is a being that's never walked the earth as a living person. So, you have angels and demons. It's the negative side of the angels.
oh wow, yeah. See, I'm looking forward to
Because you have,
that.
you have negative energies that were people at one time.
Yeah.
So you have negative ghosts. Those aren't demons. Big difference. They've walked the earth. Demons have not.
I've actually had 2 demon hunters. They claim to be demon hunters. I can't say they are.
Mhm.
This is the crazy, Chris. I know this is the craziest thing. They always tell me, Eric, if you're going to go hunt for demons, they tell me this. Don't think
I
I'm
don't
crazy.
recommend
No,
it.
bring peanut butter with you because demons do not like peanut butter. And I'm sitting there like, okay. So last time my brother and I went on a ghost investigation at Black Diamond, we actually brought peanut butter. I mean, I don't know if it's true or not, but they said demons do not like peanut butter.
I've never heard that. And the ones that I've dealt with, peanut butter was not involved, I assure you. It was holy water and crosses and prayers and everything else. So
Well, you hear
yeah.
the craziest things, and you don't know, it's
No, you don't. You don't. And I don't know. I've never heard peanut butter. I'll have to Google that.
Yeah, demons. The Bat Mom says demons are not a joke, and I get it. And I would not want to come across one. We're coming up to the end of the show. Eric, fascinating show, great show, Paranormal Highway. Where can we find you throughout the week, man?
Well, if you go to any one of my shows on the Paranormal Highway, in the description, I always have my, the Instagrams, the TikTok, like everybody else, I have, TikTok, Instagram, Messenger. So you can reach me different ways. Paranormal Highway 13 at gmail.com. And I'm always, a lot of my shows sometimes are based on some of the things that people say in the chat. Just honestly, on Tuesday with you, Rob, Danny Stanton last week says, hey, you need to get Rob on your channel. He's got a book and stuff, and just today somebody told me, Eric, you need to do a show next week on what country has the most paranormal hotspots. I'm like, oh, I never studied like it's easier to study Bigfoot and UFOs because you look at the sighting charts. But how would I look up charts on who has the most paranormal? Like, okay, that's a challenge. A lot of my shows are based on what people have said in the chat, and I'm always listening. If anybody watches my show, I always try to make sure that I talk to the chat, get them involved, pick a number, 1 or 2. So it's always a fun kind of an interactive type of show. And we try to make it simple and easy. Not easy, but you know what I mean? Like more relaxed, more fun.
Oh, yeah.
Some shows are serious, in which we are serious too, but we like to do it more of a relaxed kind of a way.
Mm-hmm. Kind of how we all do ours too.
Yeah,
that's why I love you guys.
Our shows aren't scripted. We don't give the hardball question. I mean, I'm not asking like, give me your proof and your hardcore evidence for that statement. Yeah. It's not like that.
No.
Everybody has their own experiences, which I embrace, and I believe most of the people, even if maybe it's not far-fetched, but my story was far-fetched. So I can never. My book is. I mean, these are what books. We're not to lose there. Pre-come on, don't as a booze that you've got Midwest.
I think we're losing Rob.
Rob is losing me.
Yeah, Rob
Yeah.
is saying I'm a
Probably
handsome
didn't hear
guy.
the last 30 seconds.
He was saying Eric is just a handsome guy overall. He's just, no.
Yeah, his service is, I think, gone. I think it's. Oh, there he's back. Are
Am I
you there?
back? Did you see me?
He went to another dimension.
Yeah.
Am I gone?
You're
Am I
back.
gone?
You are back.
Okay, but before we lose it, thank you. Tonight, 9:00, Blondes and Booze Paranormal Podcast. Hey, you guys, I dropped my book. It's on Amazon. Links are in the chat. Just type in my name. You can find it if you care to buy it. Thank you for that. Everybody, I've seen a lot of new people out there. Please like, share, and subscribe. Subscribe to Bigfoot, Mr. Rob, Paranormal Highway, the Blondes and Booze Paranormal Podcast. Love y'all. Thanks for the super chats from No and from Derek. With that being said, I had to get that all in really fast before God, Krista, the last show was toward the end too.
Yeah.
Eric, it's been a pleasure, man.
Thank you.
Yes,
Krista, I'll talk to you later.
Fun.
Thanks to everybody for coming in.
See everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.